I am 100 years old, and there are things I have never told anyone, not my children, not my friends, not even the man I spent most of my life with. These are the regrets no one talks about, the quiet ones that don't show on the surface, but live inside you every single day. And if you stay with me until the end, maybe you'll understand something most people realize too late. My name is Margaret Collins, and I've lived for a century. People look at me and see a long life, a successful life, a complete life, but what they don't see is what I lost along the way. I was born in 1926, in a small town in Vermont, where life was simple, but expectations were heavy. Back then, you didn't question your path, you followed it. And I did exactly that. I was the kind of girl who did everything right. I listened, I obeyed, I never caused trouble. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. But it wasn't. Because the first regret no one talks about is this: I never truly discovered who I was. I spent my entire youth becoming who others wanted me to be. A perfect daughter, a respectful young woman. I never asked myself what I wanted. And when you don't ask that question early in life, you spend the rest of your life searching for the answer. When I was 19, I met someone who made me feel something different. His name was Daniel. He was kind, gentle, and full of dreams. When I was with him, I felt like I could be someone else, someone free. But I didn't choose him. I chose what was expected. I chose safety over truth. And that leads me to another regret people don't talk about. I walked away from love because I was afraid of what others would think. Fear is quiet. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It convinces you that you're making the right decision, even when you're not. I told myself I was being responsible, that love wasn't enough. But the truth is, I was scared. And I paid for that fear for the rest of my life. I got married, had children, built a life that looked perfect from the outside. And in many ways, it was. My husband was a good man. My children were kind. My home was warm. But there was always a part of me that felt incomplete. And that's another regret no one talks about. You can have a good life and still feel like something is missing. I didn't understand that for a long time. I thought something was wrong with me. Why wasn't I completely happy? Why did I feel this quiet emptiness even when everything looked right? It took me years to realize it wasn't about what I had. It was about what I had lost. As the years went by, I became busier. Responsibilities filled my days. I woke up early, worked hard, took care of everyone. I told myself I didn't have time to think about regrets. But they don't disappear, they wait. And another truth I learned too late is this: I didn't give myself permission to rest and truly live. I was always doing something, but I wasn't always living. I missed moments that I can never get back. Simple things. Sitting with my children and really listening. Watching the sunset without rushing. Laughing without thinking about what comes next. I thought life would slow down eventually, but it doesn't. It moves faster with every passing year. And one day, you realize how much you've missed. Then came the hardest part of life: loss. I lost friends. I lost family. And eventually, I lost my husband. And that's when another regret hit me harder than anything else. I didn't say what I needed to say when I had the chance. I assumed there would always be more time, more conversations, more opportunities to express how I felt. But time doesn't wait. It doesn't ask for permission. It just moves forward, with or without you. There were things I never said, feelings I never expressed, and those words, they stayed with me. Even now, as I sit here at 100 years old, I can still hear them in my mind. Things I wish I had said, but didn't. And maybe the biggest regret of all, the one no one wants to admit, is this. I waited too long to be honest with myself. For most of my life, I lived on autopilot, doing what was expected, following the path that was laid out for me. It wasn't until I was much older that I started asking real questions. What do I want? What makes me happy? Who am I, really? But by then, most of my life had already passed. Last week, on my 100th birthday, my family gathered around me. They were smiling, celebrating, calling me strong, inspiring, and I smiled back. But inside, I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about all the things people never talk about, the quiet regrets, the invisible mistakes, the moments that don't make it into stories, but shape your entire life. And I realized something in that moment. I didn't want to leave this world without saying it out loud, without telling the truth. So I stood up, looked at my family, and said something I had never said before. I have regrets. The room went silent. They didn't expect that. People don't expect honesty at that age. They expect comfort. But I wasn't there to comfort them. I was there to tell them the truth. I lived a long life, I said, but not always the right way. And then I told them everything. Not every detail, but enough. Enough for them to understand. Enough for them to see that life is not just about living long. It's about living true. And then I said the most important thing I've ever said. You still have time. Because that's the difference between you and me. You're still in the middle of your story. You still have choices to make. You still have time to be honest with yourself. To choose love over fear. To speak your truth. To live fully, not just exist. I am 100 years old. And yes, I have regrets. But maybe, just maybe, my regrets can become your lessons. Maybe my silence can become your voice. Maybe my story can help you live differently. Because one day, you will look back on your life, and in that moment, you won't think about how long you lived. You'll think about how you lived. And I hope, when that day comes, you don't have to say what I'm saying now. I hope you can smile, without regret. And if my story made you think, if it made you feel something real, then subscribe to my channel. Because I have more stories to share. Stories that might just help you live a better life before it's too late.